God damn it. Okay, we're here. Episode 9. It's May 12th, and we're laughing and we're smiling. But Brett sadly was not smiling yesterday. He had to miss the pup show, unfortunately.
I missed the pup.
Missed the pup. And it's very interesting because typically, etiquette wise, if you have a friend who misses a show and they say, "How was the show?" you go, "Oh, it was good. Yeah, it was a fun time." And then that's it. You just leave it at that. Maybe if they ask, you do a little bit more of a follow-up. And then you don't make them feel that bad. Unless you do a music podcast together and you have to talk about the show.
Fortunately for you, though, I woke up this morning and half my Twitter timeline was people taking videos at the pup show last night. So I was able to see firsthand how good the show was and what I missed. So don't feel bad at all.
It breaks my heart. You were very missed. Me and Vinny had a time, but we missed
I'm glad you guys had fun. I missed you guys too.
It was a great show. They were everything I expected and more. They're really good. Like,
They sounded awesome.
Yeah, the sound was great. They were locked in. They were fun. They had some banter.
No encore.
No encore. They made a point to talk about it. They're like, we don't really see the point in like pretending we're gonna leave just to come back. So we're just gonna play all the songs. What they did do was like they turned the lights off and kind of like pretended to hide. And then they're like, "Oh, we're back. We're here." So then they played like the last two.
They played Kids, right?
Yeah, Kids and I don't have the set list up because I don't remember off the top of my head. Kids and what was it?
Morbid
Stuff. Yeah. It was killer. They played most of the songs you'd expect. A
Guilt
good
Trip?
amount of, they did not play Guilt Trip. They played,
at least I didn't miss that then.
They played Dark Days and Reservoir were the two off of their first album. And then it was just like a good mix of everything. They opened with Four Chords and Totally Fine, which opens the current album, their latest album. And then it was just like a good mix. They did If This Tour Doesn't Kill You right into DVP, which was cool because another like album opener and then follow up. So
you can't have one without the other with those two.
Exactly. And then when he played the song Matilda at the end of that, there's just like a guitar solo. But in this case, he said he's been practicing this solo for 15 years and he's going to nail it. And then he played the Hotel California solo for like 3 minutes, which led me to one of my drunken thoughts at the show. What do you call it when Pup covers the Eagles?
It wasn't Robot Writes an Eagle song?
No, but I appreciated the guess. You call them the Beagles. Because it's like a dog. Right?
Oh,
Brett, I think we lost you.
That went over my head for a second.
I thought,
like, wait, where'd he get B from?
No, I thought
now
my joke was just
it.
So bad that it crashed our Zoom call. No, it was a great time. For a Monday night show, I had doubts. Like, I also was hearing from people that the tour hasn't been selling that well, which I thought was odd because like Pup's like the top of the game right now for the genre, I thought. But someone at the show was telling me their theory, and it was that they're at this weird in between of too big to play the small places, but too small to play the bigger places, or something like that.
That's the nail on the head, I think, with them.
Yeah. Plus, like I said, a Monday show probably didn't help attendance.
I think just knowing from trying to sell my ticket back, like I saw that, like, obviously it wasn't sold out. which meant resale. Like no one was buying anything. I got to
Yeah,
drop my ticket to like the lowest price possible for it to go, and luckily it did. But
it's always nice when you can get some back for a show you
yeah,
can't go to. Takes the sting off a little.
a little, not much, but
Not much, but at least you get a few schmeckles back.
exactly. Towards the
Um,
next show
the
that we
openers
took
were
care of
really cool too.
today.
Yes. We go to a show and then buy tickets for a new show. That's how it goes.
Circle of Music Live.
The openers were this band Pink Shift, which they were just like I don't really know how I would describe them, but just like kind of heavy rock music. And they had
That
like
Sheer
this
Mag.
little chick singer, this just like little girl, like I don't know how else to call her, and she had this voice and these screams that were so awesome. The first song she screamed in, I was like, holy crap, where is this coming from? um
That was Pink Shift, or that was Sheer Mag.
Pink Shift.
Okay.
um you could tell, like, so Pink Shift, they were saying they just have an EP out. They're from, is it Maryland maybe? And you could tell they're a new band, but their sound was so good that I have high hopes for like what they'll become, because it seemed like they were on a really good track musically. So
This one song has 5 million listens.
damn. See how
I'm
we
gonna
should
tell my
try
therapist on you.
and that's what it's called.
Yeah.
We should try and get them on and find out how they blew up that fast and how you get on a tour with Pup with just one EP. I'd be very curious.
I think we might be able to swing that
Yeah.
based on our luck coming at the end of the month.
Yes. The interview that we will not mention until it happens.
Because it got pushed back a little bit.
And then the other band was called Sheer Mag, and they were basically just like an 80s rock and roll band, but our age. Another female singer, and she had a fan blowing in her face the whole time, blowing her hair back, and she was wearing aviators, and she was
That's pretty
so
cool.
so cool. And the guitar player kind of looked like David Cross, and he had on this bandana and he was shredding, and like him and the bass player shared a microphone, so when they would do backups they would both lean in together, which I don't know, I just really liked watching that. um they're nothing like Pup, but they were such a good hype band to go before them.
They get a
80s
lot of listens
80s
too.
are alive and well. Yeah, they're from Philly. Sheer Mag, definitely check them out. I would see just them because it was that fun.
Wow, that's some high praise for
Yeah,
an opener.
they were great. They were real great. Yeah, and then Pup crushed it. We got a spot near the bar on the floor, and then we were very close to the stage even over there. And then towards like the second half of the set, we were getting a little antsy, and like a
Yeah.
song I knew Vinny really liked came on, so I'm like, just run in there. So he runs into the pit, then he comes out, then I put my drink down, then I run into the pit, and next thing I know, we're both in the pit and we've both abandoned our spot at the bar. And then I look at him like, we just got to stay here till the end of the show now, because there's going to be like 3 or 4 more songs. And we put up so many crowd surfers. We were just launching people into the air. It was great. Like something about being in a mosh pit, putting your arm around a complete stranger and singing the lyrics to a song together is just, it fills my heart with so much joy.
It looked like a great crowd. Like everyone was into every song from the videos I saw.
Yeah, it really was just like that. Everyone was super cool, super polite. There wasn't anyone like being like aggressive. It was just running around in circles and singing together. And yeah, it was a great crowd. And I think a lot has to do with it being on a Monday. Like you're not getting people there on a Monday who don't want to see the band. Everyone there clearly wanted to see him bad enough to go out to a show on a Monday night. So I think that kind of helped the crowd. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Now you should tell listeners about how good Sum 41 was on Saturday night.
Oh yeah. Well, the Sum 41 concert became watching Netflix on my couch.
They
It
did the
got
right thing
canceled.
though. So everything we bashed them for last week, they went and did correct this time. So
Yes.
I take back what I said.
Yeah. The show was canceled, um, postponed to August, another weekend in August. And I don't know if was it canceled because of the weather or because of COVID?
I'm pretty sure it's COVID, but I
COVID.
think the
Okay.
weather might have forced their hand anyway. It was really bad on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how they would have gone forward with that, with the wind and everything.
No, I don't think that show would have happened. So I appreciated them giving us, was it 2 days notice?
2 days. Yeah, Thursday night they announced it, right?
Yeah. And as much as I love shows, having plans and then having those plans canceled is one of like the best feelings. Like just a whole Thursday or Saturday with nothing to do. Doesn't happen often. So I kind of embraced it and just hung out, cleaned the house for Mother's Day on Sunday. And yeah,
How do you think you'd be feeling today if you had some 41 Saturday, Mother's Day, and Pup last night?
I think we would be recording probably tomorrow and not
Yeah.
today.
I think that's fair.
Because my head is throbbing a little bit right now. My neck is sore from headbanging, and my calves are sore from jumping up and down for the entirety of the pup show.
That's a sign of
And
good time.
yeah, and it's a sign of me being old and out of shape.
We are old now.
This is 30. Your calves are sore from an hour and a half concert.
I'm standing.
No, it was a lot of jumping. I was jumping up and down for a lot of that show.
You can't not jump when Pup is on, though.
Yeah, it just makes you want to jump and sing. And uh I we talked about it last week, how when a show is coming up, you feel required to listen to the band. And I said to Vinny before the show yesterday that I'm looking forward to the show being over so I don't have to listen to Pup because they're all I've been listening to. And the show was so good that I woke up today and all I wanted to do was listen to Pup because it just reignited it even more. Gives you that,
Concerts do that.
yeah, like you wake up with that glow, that post-show high. Like I was going off like 5 or 6 hours of sleep, exhausted in the office today, and I was happy. Like, I was just riding like the adrenaline from the night before. It's a great feeling.
You know what does it too? Like if like you hear a song live that like maybe you're not crazy about on the album, but it sounds like phenomenal live, and then like you'll go back and listen to it again. You have like a new appreciation for it. Like I love when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that happened with My Life Is Over and I Couldn't Be Happier. Because that one I don't listen to a ton, but live it was so fun that I put it on today, and was it takes you back to the show. So now you have this whole new memory attached to some of these songs.
That's why we go to concerts.
Yeah. Yeah. Um so other than Pup, what else have you've been listening to this week?
So it was a very busy Friday release week last week and also this week coming up. So we had new Silverstein drop, which we'll be talking about shortly with a special guest.
Yes.
And we had new Arcade Fire, who normally I'd skip, but I heard it was a return to form. So I went and listened to that a lot of the weekend. And there was new Simple Plan, which I haven't listened to yet. So I'm hoping to get to that maybe tomorrow. It's been all Silverstein since
Yeah.
Friday, but you'll hear more about that soon.
Yeah, we'll get to Simple Plan next week. I
Along with
haven't listened
new
to that
State
either.
Champs on Friday, so we can bookend the pop punk.
Oh, nice. And new Kendrick Friday. So maybe we could have a
Oh
little rap
wow!
talk.
Okay, Friday's another big one.
I feel like Kendrick would be like a whole thesis of a breakdown. Like I don't know if I could listen to his album twice and
No,
like assess it properly.
I skipped a
Um,
single on purpose, knowing the album's coming out this week.
but will this change your mind? The single isn't going to be on the album. So apparently before all his albums, he releases this song. I forget what it was called, but this one was like part 5 because it's the 5th one he's done. And apparently he releases a single that kind of summarizes or gives like a vibe of what the album is going to be like, but then it's
Oh,
not on the album.
okay. I have to listen
Yeah.
now. I
And
have no choice.
watch the music video when you listen, because it's just him rapping, but like his face is changing.
It's like Will Smith and OJ Simpson, I heard, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, the Arcade Fire album, I as I made it very clear last week, I don't know much about them at all. I don't think they're folksy in hindsight. I kind of pulled that out of nowhere and think it was wrong, at least this album. It's a pretty cool album. I gotta say, I love like the concept vibe they do with the songs. And
Like they're all multi parts.
it really fit in nice listening to like heavy Silverstein when to then have that to like balance it out. Because I'm sure you're like me, where there's parts of the day where even if the Silverstein album is your favorite thing they've ever done, like I just don't want to be yelled at right now.
Yep. Silverstein's the shot, and then this Arcade Fire album was the chaser.
Yes, well said.
But I'm really liking this album so far. Like I've honestly skipped everything since the Suburbs because I've heard they kind of tried to be a pop band and it doesn't really work for them. But this, like the Lightning 1 and 2, I
Yeah,
keep hitting repeat on those two. Like I love the end of Lightning Part 1 that like shoots right into Lightning 2. And it's just like 3 minutes of in your face, like Arcade Fire, which is like what they did on the Suburbs that I liked. Like Ready to Start. It kind of reminded me of a little bit. But I think they were trying to get back to that sound. Like I'm not sure they quite got there because the Suburbs is like an all-time classic. But this one's still really good. But
yeah.
I do think it's backloaded. Like I think tracks 6 through 10 are amazing, but like I haven't gotten into the front half as much as the back half so far.
I've I've only listened to it twice, but I would definitely agree with you that I think the Lightning right around there is what stands out for me. And then um the beginning was cool. I just like this concept idea, how they have like multiple of the same song, but it kind of goes into each other and they're long and experimental. And then they have a prelude as track 3. Like I didn't know they were a band that did things like this, so I was pleasantly surprised.
And the singer's wife is the background vocalist too, which I just learned. I didn't realize they were married until I
Oh,
Wikipedia the band.
gave it the old read.
Because they killed it. They were on SNL this past week and they killed it. They were like one of the best musical acts I've seen this season, I want to say.
Wow.
But they were awesome. And like that made me want to listen to the album even more. Like the Lightning Live is a whole nother animal.
Hmm. I'll have to watch that. You got to send it to me. We can tweet it out this way people can find it. Um yeah, but that for me pretty much it was Silverstein and that. Um I've been slowly dipping into bands for this Welcome to Rockville festival because that's a week away. And what I did was I just looked up like the first bands on the list, like the first few bands playing each day. And I just started going through them just to see. And there's a lot of great small, like, I don't want to say, I mean, smaller than like the headliners, obviously. But there's one called Mood Ring that gives me like Deftones, Breaking Benjamin vibes almost. I think you would really like them.
I love me some Deftones.
And then there's another one called The Mysterines. I was talking to my friend who lives in somewhere in the UK, and he moved there when we were younger. But whenever I discover a band from over there, I always hit him up. I'm like, "Do you know these guys?" And I was texting him about Cold Years, and he said he didn't know them, but he told me to check out this band, The Mysterines, and they're just like raw, like punk rock from Britain, and they're pretty cool. And it turns out they're going to be at this festival I'm going to. So I was listening
Came
to them
full
a little bit.
circle.
Yeah, yeah, because
They
I saw
called
they were playing a New York show for like $10, but it's the day I fly out, and then as I was scrolling the set list, I realized that they were going to be there. Um, lots of other bands. This band, have you ever listened to Stick to Your Guns?
I've heard of them, but I've never listened to them before.
They're definitely bigger because they're not like a headliner, but they're definitely higher up on the bill. And yeah, they're just like heavy, um, heavy pop punk, maybe. Um, I think you'd like them too. But yeah, just a lot of music. I'm a little overwhelmed, but that's like the fun of a festival.
You're gonna have a
Is
great time out there too.
yeah, yeah. I don't want to talk about too much because I want to save it for next week because it'll be right before I'm leaving. But I'm very excited. I was checking out the layout today of the land, and it's really great. It's like right outside like Daytona Airport in like some field, and there's two main stages and then two side stages. Like if you picture a giant rectangle, the main stages are in opposing corners, and then the smaller stages are like halfway along the perimeter. Um, I don't know if I'm describing that well, but whatever.
I think I could
Um,
see it in my mind.
yeah, and then there's all tents in the middle, and like my company's gonna have a tent, like the place I work for, American Musical Supply, like, and we're gonna be doing signings and all this cool stuff, which is awesome because I'll have like a home base. I can like bring a bag, I could charge my phone. It's gonna make it so much easier than just going into a festival. Uh, I'm super excited though. It's coming up. 1 week.
Except for, aren't the headliners really big too?
Yeah. Guns N' Roses, Corn, Breaking Benjamin, Shinedown, Rise Against, Seether, Smashing Pumpkins, Nine Inch Nails, Jane's Addiction,
Yeah,
Bush,
it's
Jerry
huge.
Cantrell. It's crazy.
It's Rockville.
It's Rockville. I can't wait.
Literally though.
I can't wait. Um, yeah, I feel like Silverstein would have fit in at this festival, or like A Day to Remember, any of those, but I guess they have other things to do. A Day to Remember is from Florida. Why aren't they on this
They're
festival?
from Ocala.
Yeah,
Ocala.
yeah, that sounds right.
Not sure how to pronounce it, but
But it's their album.
yeah. And we booked our ticket to that today.
Yes. Yeah. Tour announcement. Breaking news for anyone who didn't see. A Day to Remember with Beartooth and Good Omens,
Ghost Inside.
Ghost Inside, and then either Good or Bad Omens. I apologize for
I think
not
Bad
knowing which
Omens,
ones.
unless
Um,
that's a TV show, or is Good Omens a TV show?
I don't know. One's a
One
band.
of them is
Maybe
an Amazon show.
maybe they're maybe they're the same name. Maybe the band has their own show on Amazon.
I gotta look now.
But but the other, what was the other band that you just mentioned that got
Ghost
added
Inside.
later? Yeah, so they only got added to, as A Day to Remember put it, some of the larger shows. So I was pretty psyched that Summer Stage counts as one of the larger shows. And we got
Yeah,
in on that
but it's like
pre-sale.
doors open at 4 for that one,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it ends
that's
at 10 because that's how, for some reason, that's how the pony shows are. Well, I guess because like they have a curfew
yeah,
or something, right?
yeah. But that's gonna be a real good one. I'm having anxiety over weather because I have a I have a concert every weekend of August right now. The
I feel like
odds
you're
of
due for a rainy one.
what are the odds of it being beautiful weather every weekend? Like one of them is gonna,
I feel like maybe
I
you'll
don't
get a
know.
thunderstorm, but I feel like it's not going to be rain the whole time. I feel like August is normally just hot
Yeah.
and sunny.
All right. All right.
Hopefully,
I feel better now. Thank you.
watch it be like a hurricane the weekend of Sum 41. My buddy said that. He's like, "Oh, it's August 26th. Great, right in like prime hurricane season."
A COVID hurricane. It'll just
Like
take us
Simple
all
Plan
out.
gets it this time.
Then we'll be
Knock
arguing.
on
We're
wood.
like,
Hopefully that doesn't
man, they
happen.
should just do the show anyway. Have to be consistent. Um, I want to talk about the Silverstein album, but we can't because we had
Or
a guest
can
on.
we?
Well, as far as the listeners are concerned, we're about to talk about it right now, but we already talked about it, so we can't talk about it. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Hopefully everyone at home is following along.
I'm not following along, and I'm the one talking. Let's get to the interview, and I'll clear my head, and we'll come back with more fun and games. Okay, we now welcome on guest and friend of the pod, here to talk new Silverstein, Adam Grundy. You can find all his awesome reviews, features, and interviews over on chorus.fm. Adam, thanks so much for joining us. I have a very important question to ask. When did we get so cold-blooded?
That's $1 million question, right?
How you liking the new album?
I really like it. I mean, they've really done a lot with the progression, going from like I said in my review, more introspective on A Beautiful Place to Drown to now Misery Made Me. I mean, the fact that they're titling their record something about misery, it's such a huge feeling for them to really hone in on those types of emotions and really just go for all the different nuances that go into songwriting. So I'm really liking their progression so far.
Yeah, they really rarely disappoint. I've always thought, and I know Brett agrees too. I think you said it really well in your review when you said it's one of their heaviest albums, both musically and lyrically. Because I mean, they've always like had that emo tag, and like some of their albums were more introspective than others, but this one really feels like they're tackling like some heavy stuff on these songs.
And even from like some of the introductory singles that they put out, like Bankrupt, and then I think the next one after that, I can't remember what the order was, but
Yeah.
Ultraviolet came third right before the album came out. And really they were hitting those heavier tones in the guitars, and really going for a lot of the different heavier tones that you heard kind of tastes about in previous records that really they just went all for on the current one.
I did have a fun tidbit from one of our listeners I wanted to throw out real quick. So apparently, shout out to Matt Maceos, one of our loyal listeners. He wanted me to make this note on the show when we discussed the album. I think it kind of blends into what we're talking about now. But he said that if you look at the writing credit for Dead Reflection, it's like mostly done by Shane and like some co-writers. And then when you look at A Beautiful Place to Drown, like Shane writes one song, but then the rest is Paul Mark Rousseau. Yeah. And it's the same case with this album. So it's just interesting like that. Like I know like we mentioned like on our previous episode, like how much he's been like really jolting the band forward, Paul Mark Rousseau, in addition to Shane. And it's like showing even more on this album.
Yeah, and I had a chance to talk with I think Shane right around when Redo, the first one, was coming out, the Redo album, the remix of all the reimagined songs.
Those
and then
so
Paul, and then Paul Mark Rousseau was the second interview I did right around the album A Beautiful Place to Drown came out. And really, it's just interesting hearing how they construct songs, how they think about songs, and also how they kind of bounce ideas off the other bandmates. It's really interesting because I think a lot of this was done during the pandemic when A Beautiful Place to Drown was finally hitting, and then they kind of came up with a plan to tour on that material, as well as start to put the basis into Misery Made Me. So really, it's interesting to hear how they really think about music.
It's so cool because they really do like come off as like a team. A lot of bands, I feel like I'm a big Rise Against fan, and when I talked to their guitarist, he was like, no, Tim does the writing and that's it, like that's his wheelhouse. But to see a band come together with writing lyrics, or even kind of switch the main responsibility from one to the other, I feel like that doesn't happen very often, so it's pretty cool.
I mean, when you got a band as talented as Silverstein is, they have so many different parts that come together. It reminds me a lot of like what Under Oath was kind of doing with like the responsibilities between Spencer and Aaron, taking different vocal takes with clean vocals and then scream vocals on Spencer's side, and then Aaron always pretty much just doing the drumming with the vocals overlaid on that. It reminds me a lot of like what they do with their collaborative process, speaking with all four of them now. So with those vocalists.
All So I think it's like fascinating. Like I know like we ended our last episode saying like we expected this album to be good, but
Mhm.
like even knowing that and then like playing this all the way through, like I'm just blown away at how this band like they really don't miss. Like a lot of bands falling off. Like I know Nick, we talk about A Day to Remember a lot, and like Silverstein, like they're still growing, and like these songs are different than like what's come before, but it works for them, and like they're very comfortable with who they are as a band. So when they try something, it's like still Silverstein. It's like not them trying to be something they're not. Like Cold Blood comes to mind. Like that sounds like a top 40 song,
Mhm.
but that's not I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like it's showing like their range and how it still works for them as a band.
Yeah, there's certain ones on here that just feel like classic Silverstein, and then there's others where you could tell they're just tweaking it just enough where it's different, but it doesn't sound like a different band. They're really good at it because it's a really fine line between being stale and then changing too much and isolating your listeners, alienating. So
Sure. Yeah. And
yeah,
even with A Beautiful Place to Drown, there was like the introduction of saxophone on the song All on Me, which was kind of unique hearing it from like the early recordings that the label provided for me. So just hearing that for the first time, I remember just thinking of how they always push the envelope in their songwriting and also the different sounds they want to bring it up forth to each one. So
what are your thoughts on the features that they've been doing these past few albums? They usually stick to like 3 or 4, it kind of feels like.
yeah, I mean, I think four is a pretty good number. And somebody actually wrote on one of the tracks. I think it was the one "Alter Mary." Originally they said they're going to do a feature for that, but what they ended up doing is they kept it all as one track. Even though it's blended together, it's basically like two tracks mixed into one because there's a lot of different tempo changes and things like that. But as far as the features, that's something that Silverstein's almost always done. Looking back to the days of, A Shipwreck in the Sand all the way through where we are now from Misery Made Me, they've really looked for new voices to kind of bring into the fold to give a new element to each of the songs. So it really didn't surprise me there was that many features at all.
And then Adam, in your review, like you made a great point that whenever they do bring these features, like they work, like they're like
Mhm.
calculated, but it fits in with exactly what they're doing at the time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of that is really well thought out, and they hone in on the guest vocalists. Usually, it's a vocalist, their strengths, and they really take their time to figure out what they can do to make that song better and really make it stand out.
Yeah, it feels like these guys they're used just right. Like they don't overshadow the song. If you're not paying attention, you might not even realize immediately that it is a feature on some of them. Like Slow Motion has Devil Wears Prada guy, I think, Mike Kranica.
I think
And
so.
like that
Yeah.
one, first listen, just not like paying super close attention, I didn't catch it. And then when I'm looking at the lyrics or the credits, I kind of picked up on it. The one that stood out most was Cold Blooded, Cold Blood, like Brett mentioned, with
Mhm.
Trevor Daniel, who I never heard of, but
It's the
it,
first time I've heard him too.
it's definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting hearing like these vocalists that you kind of know from other projects and how they kind of blend into the Silverstein sound with either their vocal cadence or things they try up to be, complement Shane Told's vocals also. With his ability to go from a roaring scream all the way to the clean vocals that he's kind of improved on really a lot since the debut,
Yeah.
where he basically admitted to me in an interview that he didn't know what he was doing when he was first screaming on the first album. So it's kind of interesting to see how he's adapted to some of those early lessons, and you see that on the redo 1 and 2 albums too. When they got to re-record a lot of the new material, the older material, I should say.
The
Yeah.
fact he could still like scream like that almost 20 years like after like discovering the waterfront. Or
Yeah,
actually, I guess when broken is easily fixed is almost 20 at this point,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I put that one on today, and it's so cool because, like you said, like his screams aren't like honed in at that point. It's their first album, but knowing where they end up and then listening to that is so cool because you really hear all the pieces that make Silverstein who they are, and you know exactly where it's going to go since we've seen it. And
Yeah.
they're such an impressive band to be able to just keep doing it for this long and keep making it feel new.
Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned the altar Mary before. I think that might be like the best song they've ever written. Like that song is so
It went so
out
hard in the
there.
beginning.
It's really heavy too, yeah. And then it has like a different breakdown in the middle that kind of blends into a different song. And so that's the one that they said was intended to be two different tracks, and then it just ended up being like stuck together. And it's kind of cool how it goes into the album sequencing it all together. So it makes sense right around I think it's around the seventh or eighth song or so.
Yeah. And there's some really cool production on it. There's like this echo on his voice as it starts to switch to the other half. And then you hear like chairs or a table, something being like kind of like messed with in a room.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to just like get into how they did all those little things. Like, at what point do you think, we should like move some chairs or something? Like, just the little
Yeah.
nuances.
Yeah, there's also like I think on the almost the next to last song, if it's not, it blends into where he's talking
Yeah.
about, if you hear on the headphones, you can hear him talking about, I'm gonna try this guitar part before they go into the ballad Misery. So he's talking about like different riffage and stuff like that. And I think that's really cool when bands add in those studio elements about when they're tinkering with different things and they're trying out different things. Much like other, I just think of like other like 90s bands like Green Day. They put in like that mess up on their probably the most famous song, Time of My Life,
Yeah.
Time of Your Life. And then yeah, you hear the intro and the F word and stuff like that. And then they go right into they're one of the most famous hits of all time. So yeah, it's cool seeing those little studio nuances and tricks that they throw in there.
It's like on World of Blame with Sum 41, where it's like, oh, we're singing, and it cuts right into the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of A Day to Remember. When you hear him like practicing it and just mumbling the words on Common Courtesy, like right back at it again, or one of those.
Yeah.
He's like, guys, I got it. And then they kick into the song. It's so cool because like it makes you feel a little closer to the band. Like you get a little behind the scenes peek to these things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how they put everything together. And maybe at some point I'll reach out to them again for an interview to get some more context about what went into these songwriting processes, because it's definitely a very complex record.
Yeah, and you should ask them why they insist on doing co-headline tours these past 2 years.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're a big enough band to fill like these medium to large size rooms, and sometimes they look for different supporting slots along the way to kind of get their name out there in different audiences. So I kind of see what they're doing from that perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're from Canada, so maybe they still feel like they haven't really truly made it, so to speak, in the States. But yeah, they're definitely a household name within our audience at Chorus.fm. So.
Adam, do you listen to Amity Affliction at all? Like Nick and I have never really listened to them before, so we're not really sure like
not
what this
as
tour is gonna be
much.
like.
I mean, I'm familiar with the band just from like different billings and stuff like that, but I haven't really checked them out on a higher level.
So we're not the only ones, Nick.
Yeah.
No, but I want to go to that show, so I'm sure we'll listen to them leading up as it goes. Yeah, I've been really happy with this album though. You never know what you're gonna get with these things, but with Silverstein, you can always kind of rely on good different songs.
Yeah, and the fact that they're not making the same album over and over again, which is very easy to do in the post-hardcore genre, with getting comfortable to that type of sound or whatever style that you want to call it. They're like kind of the comparisons like that I mentioned before, like with Under Oath and with other bands that have kind of evolved over time. They've really honed in on those sounds that they want to do, and they really are able to really go for different directions because it still makes them sound like it's still them, and they're willing to take the calculated risks along the way in order to make it different.
Yeah, I mentioned Cold Blooded before, and just like the fact that like that and like Die Alone are on the same album, just it's so wild, and it works. Like I thought the album had like a really good flow for the most part. You mentioned in your article how Bankrupt is kind of like feels a little shoehorned in.
Yeah, and the fact it's like one of the older songs now that have come out because it was the first one released when it was almost like a standalone single at that point. And then it almost like when you listen to the album from front to back, it almost sounds a little awkward in its sequencing. You almost want to prefer it as like a bonus track or as kicking off the set because it sounds so different than everything else that's on the record.
Wonder if that was their choice, or if like their record label was like, how about we just throw this single on there too, just for good measure.
I mean, a lot of times the discussions go on between, the label and the artist, and then obviously from a marketing standpoint, you want to make sure your strongest songs are at the beginning, because you just think from a streaming perspective, people are just browsing along. They want to hear the first couple strong songs to start off a thing. I mean, we're definitely past the days of like going to Tower Records and stuff like that to listen to the album when it first comes out from front to back and skipping along. But yeah, you definitely want your strongest songs to start off with, just from a marketing standpoint.
And like you pointed out in your article, like that song's like 7 months old at this point when it was released the other day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so weird how that works. Me and Brett have like an ongoing debate if it's worth listening to the singles or if you should just block them out until the album comes out.
Yeah, I mean, we get so many different advances and different like pitches at chorus.fm. It's almost hard to, block out some of the noise that when a new music video is released or something like that, when the album comes out, let's say 6 months from now. I'm usually in the boat where I want to at least hear the full thing, rather than like the few singles that have been released, unless it's something that I know that I'm going to be gravitating towards right from the get-go, like a My Chemical Romance or a Silverstein or something like that.
Yeah.
But in general, when I do my reviews, I like to listen to the album at least front to back at least 2 to 3 times if possible, because it's easy to get into either a good mood or bad mood or something in between when you're listening to a record for the first time, and then let that kind of influence some of the writing that goes after it. So I really like to put myself in different experiences with it.
Yeah, that's smart, because there's plenty of albums I could think of where first listen for really no logical reason at all, I just have like a negative vibe towards it. And then I just have to shake it and like, give this a chance. Why are you making these like presumptions all of a sudden?
Yeah.
But do you feel like in like your line of work, you almost have to listen to singles, or are you able to wait if you're typically doing an album review?
Yeah, most of the time I'll wait, at least closer to the release week of, let's say, like things that are coming out this week, like the new Florence and the Machine and stuff like that. I haven't heard any of the singles at all. I wanted to kind of go in fresh with that, because I'm familiar with the artist and what they've done beforehand. So I feel like I could pick up those pieces a little bit quicker than whether it be like a new artist that's just put out like maybe a single or two or even an EP before that. There might be something that you want to pick up early on that kind of give you a flavor for what they're going for on the full length.
See, I'm not alone, Nick, with the album take.
No, I lean more and more towards your opinion with every passing album, because even this one, I think it might have been Bankrupt. By the time I got to it, I was like, this song is old. Like, I didn't even think this was a single on the album. I thought this was just some other song.
Yeah, because we didn't know an album was that close to being on the horizon, really, when Bankrupt and the other single that came out, the second one, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but
Ultraviolet and
was It's Over one too?
Yeah,
It's Over. That's the one I was thinking
that
of. Yeah.
one. I absolutely love in that song how the guitar riff like previews the vocal melody in the chorus. It's so good.
Yeah, and really they complement each other. Bankrupt and It's Over, they use like on the single artwork some of the similar vibe and things like that. So you almost felt like it was going to be like 2 standalone singles. So you rush out and purchase them or whatever, or maybe they'll put it on a 7-inch at some point. But you didn't really think that they had the full length pretty much ready to go around the springtime. So here we are.
Yeah, they're always working. They're almost good for like an album a year, it feels like at this point.
Yeah, between that and like the remix albums and the live records that they put out, they just put out, I think, the live release of Discovering the Waterfront. They put that out on vinyl a couple of years before that. I think they did the one for When Broken Is Easily Fixed. And yeah, they're a tremendous live band. I've seen them at least I would want to say 5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
they're road warriors. I live just outside the DC area, so I've seen them closer to Baltimore most of the time. They come through there. I always look forward to when they do come through.
Did you catch them on this past tour with
Beartooth? I have
Beartooth?
not. No, I did not. No.
Yeah, we didn't either. It didn't really. They went through weird markets for that. At least it seemed like a lot of like venues that were kind of out of the way or
okay,
less frequented. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you never know with that type of the kind of the great restart to touring. It was tough for everyone else, as COVID was starting to break a little bit. For everyone to get to like the same venues that they've been used to, they had to get a little bit more creative with the routing. I heard from a couple of different artists, because everybody was in a rush to get on the calendars of all these venues that they've been so used to. So you almost have to think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Adam, I know you just brought up the redo albums, and you made a great point on your last review when the second one came out, that like they haven't touched Rescue yet on either of these two. So I just kind of wanted to pick your brain there and see why that is.
I think they think it's one of their weaker albums, and I kind of agree. It was one of the things they kind of just kept going through the motions, and cranking out albums every 2 years. And maybe that was just one of the ones that didn't really fit and maybe didn't do as well commercially. So maybe they thought, maybe interest is not as high on that one. But at the same point, with something giving you a chance to kind of think things over and do a true redo of that material, I think that could lend itself well to if they do a third one. Think about what they could do to affect the bridges, the choruses, or even the guitar tones that they went for on that, maybe even the tempo changes. I mean, another example of that is like bands like Newfound Glory, who've been around for forever. They're putting out their first acoustic record, I think, this summer. Then they're looking at some of the different tempo changes that they've done with some of their heavier songs, and some of the ones that have mosh breakdowns and things like that, and really thinking about what the song means and what they can do to really layer those guitars acoustically.
Like Silverstein's mastered that acoustic. Like they're like the perfect like Sour Patch Kid band of like the scene where they're sour then they're sweet, because like no one really does acoustic as well as they do.
Do they have an acoustic album? I feel like they must, but I can't seem to find one.
I don't think they do per se, but B-sides? there's a lot of ones that they've done for like either bonus tracks that have been acoustic versions, and also a lot of their live recordings, like the one at El Macambo, if I'm saying that right. I had a lot of different acoustic vibed ones.
They could definitely get away with it, but they're in such like a heavy road right now that I feel like the last thing they want to do is make an acoustic album.
And I think it wasn't one of their recent touring stints. They did 3 sets. They started out with like a one with Discovering the Waterfront, then an acoustic set, and then a greatest hit set. So I think they definitely have the material definitely to bank on. If they wanted to do a true acoustic record, I'm sure they could always put that together relatively simply.
Rise Against did it, but they had they brought in strings for songs and piano, so they didn't just grab an acoustic guitar and redo the song. So I think I'd love to see Silverstein kind of do something like that, reimagine them.
I think if they could do something with an orchestra, there'd definitely be plenty of songs that would lend itself well to that type of environment. There's definitely plenty of material to choose from that would be interesting for a lot of people's ears.
So what songs are the two of you enjoying the most on this new album? What are some of the standouts?
I'll let Brett go first. Why not?
So how do we want a top 3, top 2?
2 or 3, whatever ones really stand out to you.
I'll go with top 2 just because I think we talked a lot about a lot of them so far, but Our Song is probably my favorite, the opener. It's just such a kick-ass opener. And they're really underrated with how much they do that. I feel like each of their albums has a really strong opener in it, and here it's the same case.
It's super cool, especially the guitar. It's almost jarring the way it has stops in it and stuff, but and then the vocals have this kind of weird cadence, but I don't know, it sets the tone for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then my second favorite is probably right now is Don't Wait Up. I just love the bass line in the beginning, the guitar riffs, and it almost has a Seosin translating the name feel to it, which I'm really digging. I don't know if you guys noticed that too, if that's just me kind of forcing that sound into my ear or not. But
no, there definitely is some of that type of guitar type of work, on that. Yeah.
It's got some of my favorite lyrics on the album too. When he's screaming about I can't hold myself together if I can't feel my hands. I can't get better if I don't.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great song. And I agree. The drum and bass, I love drum and bass first half of the verse, then second half of the verse, the guitar riff comes in. It's perfect formula.
Shout out Billy Hamilton on bass and Paul Kohler on drums.
Yeah,
they
did great.
Yeah, they definitely complement each other well on those. I'd say for me, my favorite one is definitely Ultraviolet. I think it should have been the first thing that was released from the record. From a marketing standpoint, it's just pure Silverstein. Everything you'd come to expect for them, and it really pushes the envelope in the right direction. And then my second one is probably the Altar Mary, but just because it's just so complex of a song from beginning to end, and then obviously the tempo change in the middle to kind of blend the two songs together to make it just one. It really stands out on repeat listens.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Altar Mary is easily my favorite song. And then Cold Blooded, I really like, just because it's just different enough that it kind of keeps me on my toes. I get like Juice World vibes from Trevor Daniel. Like if Juice World had done a song with Silverstein,
Yeah,
I could have seen it sounding like this.
It's a good comparison.
And yeah, it's just it caught me by surprise. So I've gone back to that a few times. And then since you took the Altar, I'll say It's Over. When they dropped that, I liked it instantly. The guitar riff is great. It's super cool.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see how they pull off some of these songs live, because they're really heavy hitting, and really to complement their set list, you almost want them to trend more towards this record, because it's going to be so much different than everything else they've done in the past. It'd be kind of awkward to go from the quieter A Beautiful Place to Drown It in some points to Misery Made Me, but I mean they'll definitely find a way to work it into the set with all the different records in their discography, and this is their 10th one, so it's hard to believe they put out 10 studio albums now.
Yeah, you can go to a show and they can just play 2 songs off every album. It
Yeah,
would be like
that's it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I know like some people don't like to like rank records, but Adam, if you had to, like, would you put this one like near the top, or do you have like a slot you'd put it in?
Yeah, I'd probably put it at least in the top 3 right now. I was a big fan of Dead Reflection being their favorite, being my favorite at that point. I think A Beautiful Place to Drown at times ends up being around my top 5 or so. Discovering the Waterfront was when I first discovered the band, so that's one always going to be sentimental for me. And then A Shipwreck in the Sand, probably just from the complexities and the different guest spots that they put in there, that would definitely be around the top 5, but it definitely shifts for me depending on moods. But this one would be firmly cemented in my top 5 for sure right now.
I definitely have to agree there. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I love how heavy it is, so that automatically gives it a spot right up there. It's always tough when things first come out it's like, do I really like it this much, or am I just listening to it nonstop? But I think it's a really well done album, so I think it earns its spot at the top.
Yeah, and I really liked how they kept at least most of the material, closer to the release date, because it's so easy to get an opinion from something if you've released half the album, before the release date. I mean, that was some of the like minor faults of like what Under Earth did with the latest record, is because they released, I think, almost half of the album up until the release date, or right up into that, with all the different mini singles they kept putting out. It was almost like you felt like you heard everything, and then there was a little bit of some complexities and different things that they did on some of the other tracks in between the sequencing, but I really like to hear it all from the full artistic statement from front to back.
I agree there, Nick. We just had that conversation about how many singles are too many singles.
Yeah, I think 4 tops, and even that, if it's a 10-song album, like it's like half the record right there.
Yeah,
and you're not hearing them in the right context, like you had just said.
It's kind of cool how, like, if you look on like Wikipedia pages, they'll usually keep track of the number of singles that have been released from a certain album cycle or whatever. I think Under Oath had like 7 for the recent one. Yeah, 7 or 7th single that just came out for We're All Gonna Die, I think, is the last single to be released from that. So it's almost everything from that I guess 11 or 12 song album that they put out.
we're gonna start having bands that just don't make albums. They just put out songs whenever they feel like it.
And unfortunately, that's kind of what streaming has done for a lot of people. The allure of the album's kind of gone away. I mean, unfortunately, I'm a big album guy, so even when you have like this stopgap EPs, it's still nice to get a full artistic statement, even if it's like half a record. So
that's why we became Twitter buddies, Adam.
yeah, definitely.
Adam, thank you so much for coming on. This was so fun.
Yeah, happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, anytime. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you? I know Brett just mentioned Twitter.
Sure. So my handle is at Pay the Tab on Twitter, and I'm also on Instagram for Adam Grundy. Maybe it's AP Grundy. I can't remember, but I'm easy to find from chorus.fm. You can look to all my different article pages and the author page. And if you ever have any pitches for me, you know where to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
All right,
Adam.
sure thing. Great having you.
Okay, we're back. Thank you, Adam, for coming on. That was a lot of fun.
What a guest. What an album.
Yeah. That was, I didn't realize he did so many interviews and stuff like that. He talked to the band that much. That's pretty cool.
Adam is the man. He's a writing machine, and I highly recommend anyone to read any interview he puts out, as well as his reviews too, that he does pretty much weekly for Chorus. He's more guaranteed than NJ Transit, I'd say. More of a guarantee than NJ Transit.
Unless the guarantee is that they will be late, and
then they're guaranteed.
Yeah. On the topic of Silverstein, they have a podcast that we were kind of talking about before, but they're breaking down their songs one by one, and it's just called Silverstein the Podcast. So the first one they did was Bankrupt, and now they have an episode out for It's Over. So I want to check that out.
I want to see if they do older songs too.
Yeah, I feel like right now they're probably going to lean into the new album because it's kind of free publicity.
I'm all for that though, because I want to hear like what went into making these songs. Because like it's like we talked about in the interview, like it's an album that just like it's out there, but it's them.
Yeah.
But it's like they tried so many new and different things, but it all worked.
Yeah, I'd love to know like their writing process and how they make the decisions they make and everything. So I would assume that podcast will give us some of that info. So definitely worth checking out. And I think he's been podcasting a while because he has another podcast where he interviews band members.
Was it As Told with Shane Told, or am I making that up?
I mean, if that's not the name, that's a huge miss on his part. And if you just pulled that out of thin air and it's not the name, then
if we ever have him on, I'll pitch it to him.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the name. So good job. That's a great name. We might have to change our podcast. We have to change our last names to Told, and then we could change.
And then we can do it.
Yeah. Or you could just change your last name to General, and I could change my last name to Admission.
General Admission.
We join the army, and this way we get the title of General, and then you only have to change your name to Admission.
Be a cool jersey to get. Or a good concert t-shirt.
General Admission.
For Halloween costume, who are you supposed to be? Oh, I'm General Admission.
Yeah. You mean you don't know?
You're like in like an army suit.
It's only the most popular podcast on the East Coast of New Jersey, of a small town. No, we have listeners all over the world, and that's a fact. The analytics can prove it. Where are we going with this? Oh, I have a question that I wanted to ask you. So before we went to Pup, me and Vinny bought matching Pup shirts.
You guys both wear them to the show?
Yes.
I wanted. Did anyone say anything?
Yes. I wanted to chicken out, not because of two reasons. One, wearing the same shirt as your friend might be a little uncomfortable, And two, I've always been hesitant to wear the band's shirt to the band show. What I always like to do is kind of wear a parallel band, but not the band. Like maybe to pup, I don't know, I could wear my modern baseball shirt or something like that. Try and like fill in the gaps.
I will say I was going to wear my Menzinger shirt Monday night if I was to go to the pup show.
That would have been a great one.
I think I got that from you where like it's bad luck to wear a band shirt to their show unless like you buy the shirt at the show.
Yes,
So
that
like
is the caveat.
I've like inherited that belief where I'm not going to wear the shirt of a band I'm going to see, but I will wear a shirt of another band. Like I have a Newfound
Yes.
Glory shirt I love that has like Michael Myers in the back.
Oh,
It's like Newfound Glory Kills. It's like one of my favorite band shirts right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was debating between that one and the Menzingers one, but I'll probably save one of them for some 41 or a day to remember at this point.
Yeah, you should save them both and wear them those separate weekends.
Yeah, that actually works out perfectly. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Now that we have our outfits picked out for August. But yeah, wearing the band shirt to the show, I don't know. It always kind of just felt like lame, but I'm also a little past it in the sense like that we were talking about guilty pleasures, and it's like they don't really exist, and I don't really care about anything. So if I want to wear the band shirt to the show, I'm just gonna do it. If I want to wear matching shirts with Vinny to the show, we're gonna do it.
Why not?
And it struck up a bunch of conversations with people, and it was a lot of fun. So like, I'm glad we did it.
It's like going to like a sports event too. Like I'm sure like if Vinny was to go to a Bengals game, he'd be decked out in Bengals gear. It's like, why
Yeah.
can't you do that same thing for going to see your favorite band?
Yeah. The only band that I always wear the shirt to the show is Fish, but I always just consider them like more of a sports team than a band. So your analogy holds up. Yeah. I don't know. And then the second thought on concert day is, do you listen to the band you're going to see the day of?
Like I told you on previous podcasts, I usually cheat and look at the set list. And so I like to just jam the set list into my mind. So I'm ready for the songs that are coming. And I know I'm not like someone singing the wrong words or like just standing there. So like I usually listen to bands day of, especially if I'm not listening to them all week, then like the concert pretty much sneaks up on you, like, and you have to cram. Yeah. I feel like there's just many different cases where I do end up listening to them on the day of, but I know you believe it's superstitious.
Yes, but I also go to shows with so many people who put the band on that I'm never gonna be like, yo man, don't put the band on the day of. Like, again, I don't care. So it doesn't matter. But it was something that I used to always do. And I think a lot of these like rules also depend on the band. Like if we're going to see Blink, there's no cramming involved. If we're going to see like Rise Against or any of those bands, then like I stand by, don't listen the day of, because you're so excited for the show. All you want to do is listen to them. Like make yourself wait. Don't spoil your appetite, but if it's a band where you're not as familiar with the songs or whatever, then do what you got to do to make sure you have the most fun that you can at the show. And if that means listening to the band throughout the day of, then by all means, go for it.
I think that's a great rule.
Yeah.
I also have it's like burned into my mind, like shows at the Arts Center, and like you're walking through the parking lot, like you're tailgating, like someone's blasting that band out of their car, and it just feels like very comforting. Not like it's a bad thing. I do. Because I'm like, it gets like the adrenaline pump a little bit. It's like, wow, I'm gonna be actually seeing them live in like a couple hours after we knock back some cocktails. But
yeah, and it's that sense of like camaraderie. Like we're all here for this band and these songs, and you have that in common with everyone else at the show, so you're instantly friends. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. I really missed concerts.
I did too.
It's just you can't capture that same vibe any other way.
You really can't. I mean, sports maybe comes close, but
Yeah.
you're also, there's a chance you're going home sad.
Yeah.
Really sad.
Sports are angrier or sadder.
Music, you should be going home happy no matter what, unless the band just sucks live, which is, I feel like that's rare now. I can't really think of bands I've seen live that are terrible.
Yeah. Because you're not going to see the terrible bands.
Yeah.
I've seen some bands before where if you've seen them a bunch, you have now higher standards almost, where it's like, oh, this show was good, but it didn't beat their Brooklyn show back in like 2012 or something like that. But I don't think it would take away from the show. But if you're looking for them to play a certain song and they don't play it, maybe that could be a little bit of a bummer.
That could be it.
But
then I remember growing up, my dad used to tell me a story about like when he saw Boston live, and he said like they were awful, like
Really?
a truly awful live band. Like they sounded almost like completely different live than they did like on their albums. And, like people love like More Than a Feeling and all those different songs, and he said it just sounded like a bar band, like a bad bar band covering those
Wow.
songs.
Wow. Because they only really had like that one album, right? I think they didn't quite follow it up.
They tried to, I think, but I don't think it hit as much as that one did.
Yeah. I mean, that album was like a monster. I can't think of any other songs other than More Than the Feeling, but
we should do a classic rock episode one of these weeks on a slow week.
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
Because that, like, how many of those bands are like gateways for like us and probably many of our listeners? I feel like you start with classic rock and that's when you kind of migrate into current bands.
Yeah, or just whatever your parents are playing.
Pretty much that too.
Yeah, classic rock episode would be fun. Well, I'm gonna be able to tell you how Slash is when I see Guns N' Roses next week.
Which Axl.
Yeah, I've heard many people say like you haven't seen like wait, is Slash is not Guns N' Roses?
He is.
Slash? Oh, okay.
I'm just imagining how Axl is right now because I'm sure he sounds awful.
It's gonna be interesting.
I'm sure the rest of the band will be great. I'm like, he's the one I'd be worried about.
Yeah. Even if they're horrible, that'll just be a fun like story.
Yeah,
like
everyone's gonna be going nuts anyway.
Nothing can really go wrong. Like there's the bands I'm dying to see, and then there's the bands that'll just be cool to see, like Kiss. Like I'm not a Kiss fan. Like I could take them or leave them, I guess. But I'm psyched to see them. Maybe I'll paint my face. I don't know.
Might have to.
Yeah. And then just sneak up on the stage and just act like I'm in the band.
Light your guitar on fire.
I'll need like a prosthetic tongue. Don't they have really long tongues?
I think Gene Simmons does.
I'll tell you. Hopefully he brings it to the show.
I hope so, since he sings some of the songs.
It'd be difficult for him to sing without a tongue.
Very difficult.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I really hope he brings his tongue then. Oh no.
This is the perfect day after a concert show.
My whole body hurts. I don't know if I talked about this on air yet, but my whole body hurts. My neck hurts.
I think that's expected now when we get when you're in the 30s.
Yeah.
The day after a concert.
I don't mind though. I'll be sore.
It's worth it.
Yeah, 100%. But I'm gonna sleep good tonight. That's for sure. And then what do we have? What do we have next show wise? Is there anything on the horizon other than like
concert wise?
Yeah, like I know.
There's like, go ahead.
I know I have this festival, but after that, I haven't really thought much past it.
I know for me, I don't think I have anything till August, unless we decide last minute in June to go to the Bowling for Soup show.
I might try and go to the Philly show for that because it's like an easier date. I think I have like I don't know if it's a wedding or what, but I can't make it to the Starland show, but I can make it to the Philly show. So I might try and do that. And then this Thursday, a couple of my friends are tossing around the idea of calling out sick and going to see the Offspring at the summer stage.
It'd probably be
So
a fun show. I mean, I have seeing them at Warped. I'm like scarred from wanting to see them now because like I couldn't believe like how much they aged, and it made me feel old.
they're
And like I
definitely
love the
on the
Offspring,
older
but
side.
like
Yeah. Yeah, that's one where if they text me and say they're doing it, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna initiate it.
and they put on a great show. I've seen them like many times, especially they think was it 5 years ago now, longer when the anniversary of Smash. They played the whole album in full at the Pony
It's sick.
with Bad Religion. That was a great show.
They have a Radkey opening for them on the store, who are
But not
Uh,
Ronnie Radke.
not Ronnie Radke.
Okay.
No, the punk rockers from I don't know where they're from. I saw them play with like Rise Against a long time ago. I don't know, but they're solid. So like it'd be a good show. Just like almost went for sure because I don't know if you got this email, but Live Nation was doing $25 tickets for like all these shows.
And they were one of them, right?
Yeah. And then when I clicked it to try and get these tickets, there was no option. And it turns out there is a limited amount per show. So I guess the $25 tickets got bought. Like, what a dumb promo. If I click it the day of and can't get tickets for $25. I don't
That's
know.
pretty bad.
Piss me off. Because $25 would have been a no-brainer.
That's good for them.
Yeah, but instead it's like 55, somewhere around there, which that's about what you expect for a show. So like I don't want to say it's bad, but it all adds up. We just spent like 80 on a day to remember.
We did. I couldn't believe how much that looked. Guess with the fees, but
Yeah.
fees adds like another $20.
I don't know if this was mobile only, but there was a checkbox where it just said show prices with fees. And I really liked that checkbox because then I at least knew what I was getting off the bat and not waiting for the number to just magically go up.
Yeah, that's what I did with mine too.
Yeah. And that's a 4-band show. That's like a day event. So like I think that ticket price is easily justified.
They all put on good shows. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen. It's going to be my first time seeing Beartooth, but I can imagine that they're awesome.
Yeah. I've been listening to Beartooth on and off for a while now. So, I mean, the album with like Body Bag and all that was really good.
Their most recent one's really good too. It came out last year.
You know, I listened to it like once and then I think I forgot about it, but I'm definitely going to dig back in, especially now that we're going to be seeing them.
And Ghost Inside too. Like they're the band that, like almost died in like that horrible car crash, and they came back from it.
Oh shit. Wow. Good for them. That's crazy. I don't think I've really ever listened to them.
They're a really interesting story. They make like really good heavy music too.
Nice.
Engine 45, I think, is like their best song.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. 23 mil. Cool. Yeah, we have some good summer music to prepare for all these shows in August. Nice. What do we have next week?
So we got Kendrick, like we said,
Mm-hmm.
State Champs. We'll finally listen to the Simple Plan that came out Friday.
Yes.
I think there's one more.
We got some
What is
homework.
it? There's definitely one more that I'm missing.
Kendrick, Simple Plan.
Oh, Black Keys, if you listen to them.
Oh, nice. Wow. That's a lot of albums for us.
But then we
love
have
it.
like a slow week the following week, and then Coheed at the end of the month.
Yeah. And we're both going to be traveling the last 2 weeks of the month. So we're going to have to
Yeah,
get
so we'll
creative
have-
with episodes.
We'll have time to visit that one.
Yeah.
Maybe reach out to Coheed too.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be an easy get.
They follow me on Twitter, so I'm gonna try.
You have the blue check mark. That's going to open a lot of doors for us.
It's worked a couple times so far. So
Yeah, we got to take advantage of every tool we have. So next step, we'll get the pod verified, and then we'll be able to interview anyone we want.
that's how it works.
Yes. I think that's our show. Good work as always.
Great show, great Silverstein album. So highly recommend everyone keep listening to that. And I think it might have even swung Nick and I on seeing them live
Yeah.
on this co-headlining tour.
Yes, with Amity Affliction, who has good songs. I listened to like a few, and I apologize for just calling them a clothing brand. That was wrong. They make good music.
I apologize to you, even though I haven't listened yet. But based on how good this Silverstein album is, I'm sure they know what they're doing with bands they bring on tour.
Yes, absolutely. As always, thank you everyone for listening. We love you.
Love you.
And we'll see you all next week. Make sure to listen to all the great music that's coming out, because that's what
There's
we
a
do.
lot.
Yeah. All right. Peace.
Bye.